All right, so welcome back to the Spiritual Teachers Podcast. Today I have with me one of my dear brothers, an amazing yogi, a Kundalini teacher, instructor, a Satnam Rasayan practitioner, and just an overall amazing guy, one of the biggest hearts I've ever met. And today we're going to dive into his journey with Kundalini Yoga, his life, his journey, and it's been quite a journey. And welcome in, brother. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you, brother. I got one of my most cherished possessions here that you blessed me with. And yeah, stoked to be here and to continue the journey with you.
Yes, and
Thank you for the kind words.
of course, man. I forgot to introduce your name. It's I was so excited, man. It's Nicholas Giordano. And do you go by any other names right now?
No, not so much. Just keeping
Okay.
it simple right now.
Okay.
Nicholas will do.
Okay. Amazing, man. And yeah, that gift that you were sharing about, man, that Nicholas is holding a feather that I found out in Pennsylvania when I lived out there. I think I was in like I was maybe like 18 or 19. I was walking through the woods, maybe a little older, maybe like 22, something like that. And I was walking through the woods and just like loving life. There's a big trail out there in Pennsylvania in the Poconos around a lake called Lake Tobyhanna. And I'm walking and this feather just is laying right in the middle of the path. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so a few years ago, Nicholas and I held a retreat in the Poconos house and a men's retreat, and that feather felt like it was ready to transition over to Nicholas, and he gifted me with this amazing sheepskin he's meditated on for many moons, right?
Very true, man. I would say was definitely so far the highlight timeline of my yogic career, if we could say it that way.
Yeah,
Put a
man.
lot of work, a lot of love into Francesca, you call her now.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Francesca was the name that came through. It was really interesting. And then the next morning, we pulled these oracle cards, and on it said Seska, which is short for
Ah,
Francesca, which was like that kind of blew my mind. You know how how spirit just gave that name and then pulled that card the next morning.
I was there to witness it. It was legit.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah. And I
amazing.
truthfully, bro, like, oh my God. So it'd be my gong and then this, like, I take this. Well, I don't take it with me everywhere because you got to be very intentional. But gosh, this thing has just like rocked my world. It serves me so well. And I always have it with me in healing sessions. And it just brings such a presence. Yeah. And the aerodynamics of the feathers, there's something about it, getting into it.
Yeah, man, and I meditate with the sheepskin you gave me on a daily basis. So it's amazing. It's amazing that we were able to gift each other these tools, I would say,
Yeah.
right? And
Tools.
yeah, really powerful tools. And um, I wanted to dive into your Kundalini yoga journey. But before we do that,
Mm-hmm.
um, could you share a little bit about what makes Kundalini yoga different from other types of yoga?
Gosh, I could take up the rest of the time. The first thing that came to me when you asked is, well, for starters, there's a reality that in a way it could be totally made up. And also, there's a reality that there is a profound wisdom that has been shared with us through a very controversial figure. And we have a profound opportunity to investigate these teachings that, as I've experienced it, and I've genuinely have opened Pandora's box, so to say, but really since I was 19, like anything that I could experience for my well-being, from religion and church to yoga to running and on and on and on. And Kundalini Yoga is just fantastic. It's phenomenal in my personal perspective. It has such a profound impact, and there's something in me that to this day I choose to not only practice myself, but also as like my life's work, literally. Like it means everything to me because there's something that tells me that there is something so profoundly brilliant that matches the needs of the people of our times. And in a way as simple as that, like, and it's not about religion or none of that stuff, which really got caught up. You know, Yogi Bhajan was so controversial. There's so much to learn from how he succeeded and also failed miserably. But you know, these days there's so much talk about the I am, but for me, I'm about the we are, we are. And I think we really have to look at ourselves and all of our imperfections that we all share. And there's something about spirituality and the spiritual path that we've created an idealism of what it looks like in our minds. But I've wiped out saying no such thing as a spiritual path. It's spiritual union in the truth of Christ, in the truth of the all-loving one. And for me, these teachings have such a resonance to guide me to there. But it's not about the teachings or the teacher. It's about the experience it delivers. And I think he did his best to offer us that. And I'm really just on fire to really take what is true and pure and and, and resonant to the people, to what serves, and offer it, share it, because I know from my direct experience, gosh, it's the coolest thing there is in my life, the most sacred. It also hasn't been pretty. There's been so much trial and error, and obviously, I think you can see I could just go on and on.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I can tell you hold it in a super high regard, as I do myself. And from what I'm hearing you share, it's like it's not actually about this particular practice. It's about the experience that it gives us, right? The depth of the um, experience it allows and prepares the body for, right? So like what I know to make Kundalini yoga different than other yogas is that it's there's a meditation built into every class, right? And that's different than other types of yogas. And it's considered the yoga of awareness, right? So most of the exercises you're doing are very different than these other types of yogas where you're just in poses and holding them and just mostly stretching and building strength. This is meant, this type of yoga, Kundalini yoga, is meant to stress the body in a way, right? Would you say that? Like give it a lot of movement and energy, like building up the chi, and then relaxing and meditating, feeling the experience. And then a lot of it is meant to activate the pineal gland, the third eye, in order for us to really see the truth of this reality.
yes, brother, and to flow with you. And I'll be mindful of how much I share here. Just to say is simply Kundalini Yoga is 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 about connecting to your soul. You're not if you're going there for anything else but to want to know the depths of who you are, it won't work. And there's over 8,000 kriyas that have been taught, and I've actually made it my mission to practice each one. And to be fair, there's very few teachers that really, really open the box to go all in. Yes, there's a pituitary and yoga of awareness, but there's so much more than that. And what was delivered was a recipe. Each class has a recipe, an alchemy of what it takes. This idea that all 8 limbs are within one yogic practice. And even something like Sat Kriya, which is one posture, you can experience all 8 limbs within that.
Can you
And I've
talk a
done
little bit
that
about that?
practice.
Can you talk a little bit about what a kriya is and what the 8 limbs are?
Well, a Kriya is a whole and complete action in itself. It delivers an effect. So there's some Kriyas that are seated, moving. Some have 25 exercises. Some are just one. For example, Sat Kriya, which, as I know, is known to be the second highest Kriya in Kundalini Yoga lineage. And it's one posture where all 8 limbs, so to say, are applied. And 8 limbs go back to not just Kundalini Yoga, but really the essence of all yoga, specifically through the teachings of the sutras of Patanjali a few thousand years ago, who brought through basically 8 disciplines of this practice of union, of God union. And so first 2 limbs, which are often not even spoken of to, are these aspects of posture of mind, posture of intention, of aligning your behavior, so to say,
Mm-hmm.
getting yourself no more acting up,
Uh-huh.
get it together. But it's really about coming from the heart, not seeking these teachings from the ego. And then from there, one opens up to posture, to breath. And through the application of proper breath and posture, which, as you said, stress, it's true and it's not. It's actually the craziness of Kundalini Yoga is to work effectively to de-stress
Mm-hmm.
us quickly so that we can let the light in and actually experience a moment of peace. And that's why it's a householder's yoga. You do a kriya, even Sat Kriya. I promise anyone, they sit down and do Sat Kriya for even 3 minutes, let alone 31 minutes, and they will be different. There will be an effect.
Yeah.
And so to wrap up this sharing about Kundalini Yoga, why I'm so fascinated about it is not the yoga, but it's about understanding what God has given us. And in these ages, there's so much fluff, and no one knows what truth is in a way. But here we have this body, this everyone says is the temple, but do we really live it and know it? So the body can potentially be a technology to experience union and peace. I mean, that's what a special thing, because it's direct experience. No one can give you that. No one can sell you that. You really, it's right here with you. You have all that you need. And I found that Yogi Bhajan, as potentially monstrous as he was also really onto something about using ancient wisdom that has been lost. My studies have shown that. It said that these teachings go back to 4,000 years before Christ. They've been lost and brought through in a very unique way, potentially. And my direct experience shows me that if I sit down and do one of these kriyas, which again, there's a whole menu, apply to any need you could imagine. And I do that, and it's like coming out of a car wash. So, you clean mind, body, emotion, and soul. So thank you for letting me speak.
Amazing, brother. Amazingly described. I agree with all this. Um, the way that Nicholas and I met was actually at a Kundalini yoga training. Nicholas had graduated the year before me, right?
Correct.
And he was assisting and living at the ashram that I was training at in San Diego. And we had two wonderful teachers, Mehrabani and Guru Mantra, who had been studying Kundalini Yoga for over 40 years, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and Nicholas walks in on the first day, and I'm like, "What's up, dude?" Like it just felt like we had known each other for, forever. And we found out that our families on the other side of the country in Pennsylvania lived 15 minutes away from each other. And so that opened us up to in the future doing events in Pennsylvania. But when we met, it was such a profound space for me. It was 9 month training, like a full rebirth of like meeting monthly and just diving into these depths of self through this practice. And it was really cool to have Nicholas there to support and to guide and to share some of his wisdoms and the things that he had learned. And it was also just like some of the most transformational 9 months of my life. It like I cried a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
went through a lot of different emotions. I had to face all these old beliefs and old patterns that were holding me back. And through these practices where you're just sitting with yourself and doing these deep mantras and prayers and these practices, uh, it just takes the monkey mind and the ego out of the picture and allowed me to feel these depths of myself that I had been avoiding for many years. And yeah, I've never asked you before, but how did you find Kundalini Yoga? For me, it was like a really interesting story, but I'd love to hear how Kundalini Yoga entered your life, like the first time you found it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Just feeling super excited to just converse in this spirit with you, man.
Me too,
And
bro.
yeah, just having a great time. Just feeling like, man, it's good stuff. I hope it may resonate with some folks. Because, well, shout out to Guru Mantra, Mehrabani. I still call him. And I just want to acknowledge because there's something that we were so blessed and fortunate, especially being Americans. And I know because I've searched from coast to coast, the space we got to experience and the profundity of those 9 months and more was something that was truly a gift from God, whatever anyone wants to call it, but I am who I am. That's what I know it to be. And it's only because of God that we got to have that experience and that the experience was precious. And what am I trying to say is that God was present in that space and not because of anyone, not because of anyone's knowledge or because of anyone being a teacher, but because there was a level of devotion present to true union that we got to tune into. And that's what Kundalini Yoga can really be about. A teacher really lives it and they know it's not about them. They know to get the heck out of the way. And so that they can use the practice to be with themselves in a really profound, intimate way that it is so hard and rare to tap into because we are so overly stimulated, on and on and on. I could take, our attention is elsewhere. And so I was invited by a friend, her, Chelsea Pine. We were teaching yoga on the beach. I was hatha yogi, vinyasa, loved it. You know, it was great years, handstands and everything, rocking it. She says, "Hey, I'm in this thing and you gotta come because basically I can't wake up and I know you're weird enough. So let's do it."
She said, I know
And
you're
I'm
weird
like,
enough.
yeah, yeah. She's like, "I know you'll like, you'll get it. You're weird enough." And I'm like, tell me more. She's like, "Well, I'll be at your house at 3 o'clock." I'm like,
3 a.m., right?
wait. She's trying to like, I'm trying to catch me. I'm like, "So you talking 2 a.m.?" She's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Dang, these people aren't playing." And well, we showed up. We walked into, you know, this the coolest epic settings, the Aquarian sadhana. So what I'm speaking into all of this is Guru Mantra and Meherbani. We're practicing sadhana, 2.5 hour practice, which is really the essence of this lineage. Every morning at that time for over 30, yeah, coming up on 30 years, not missing a morning. And so that's what we were tapping into. And so I was invited to that. We showed up a little late. They were an ego eradicator doing breath of fire. The lights were
Wow.
dim. I'm like, dang, this is far out. Like, oh my God. And so I got into it and I did the thing. You know, there was like no hugging afterwards. It was really like, whew. And so she was just like, Satnam, and we were on our way. Like, Chelsea, what was that? And, you know, so she shares a little bit, and I tried to go back. I want to complete this sharing because it really was like, I went back a couple times and I was like, this is just profound. It's far out. I like it, but I'm not ready for it. Like, who wakes up at this time? I'm working late at night, you know, no way. Well, I almost died in a surfing accident. And there was this profound story where essentially I had to hold my mouth like shut for 2 weeks. I couldn't speak or anything.
Whoa, I don't
And
think you've ever
all I
told me
was
this.
thinking about, yeah, all I was thinking about was like, sadhana, sadhana, you gotta go. This is just what you gotta do. Cause you know, when you have that, we all have our moments in life. I've had many of them where like a lightning bolt. That's why I have this tattoo as peace, love, and lightning bolts. This
Uh-huh.
energy of God, you know, it's peace and love and also woo. And so, yeah, I almost died. And it's like, you know, really contemplating my life. And I knew I had to go back. I didn't know why. And all these things aligned. I didn't have a car at that time and on and on. I was able to make it. And basically, I never left. That's why you saw me living with them. It's like, I just had to be there. And so for about 4 years, I got to be in that sadness space for them. And to this day, it was the most impactful experience to my personal growth and connection with God. Like I'm still receiving from the gift of that space. And of all the teachers I've sat with, it was all about the presence that Guru Mantra held. It wasn't about anything he said. Like very few people got him. He was a master of presence of Satnam Masayam.
He was a man
And
of few words, or
and it was
is a
in
man
his
of few words.
presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was in his presence that I'm still learning to this day, you know, receiving. So thank you for letting me share that.
Yeah, man. It's so interesting because I didn't know that story before. And Chelsea was the person who brought me to them as well.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was really interesting. So how I found Kundalini Yoga was actually out in Pennsylvania. I was living in the Poconos in the mountains of Pennsylvania, like hour and a half north of Philadelphia. And I had that's when like online dating first started, right? Tinder had just come out. I think it was 2014 or 15, something like that. And this girl I was chatting with, I was telling her like I've been trying all these yogas. I've tried yoga nidra. I've tried the Ashtanga yoga. I've tried um, Vinyasa yoga. I've tried Hatha yoga. I've tried all these different types of yogas, and there's just something missing. I'm not getting what I'm looking for. And she's like,
Mm.
"Have you tried this one yoga called Kundalini Yoga?" And I was like, "What? No, what's that? I've never heard of it." And she's like, "There's this one tiny little studio out in Scranton, Pennsylvania, like a half hour from where you're at. Check it out. Like it's like this tiny little studio. Just go check it out. I think you'll enjoy it." And I went in there, and that class blew me out of the water. Like I didn't know what was happening. I had like a few days before that had my Kundalini shoot up like randomly while I was driving. I was like praying to God, and then to tell me the truth, to show me the truth of like what's happening. And then all of a sudden I go to this class like 2 days later, and my Kundalini is activated again, but I don't know what that is yet. And all I know is that like I just start seeing these visions during the meditation after the class, where I'm seeing like myself, but I'm not in this body. I'm in a different body. I'm in Egypt. I'm in these other places. I'm like basically now what I realized was past lifetime regressions, past lifetime visions. And I was like,
Mm.
what just happened? Like what was that?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Wow.
and from that moment, I was like, I know I have to teach this. I know I have to find my teachers. And I also had a knowing that they weren't in Pennsylvania, and I had to go
Well,
out west.
I just gotta share this real quick, bro. Did you know that actually Guru Mantra originally is from Scranton, PA?
No, I had no idea.
I mean, come on, you know?
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, another synchronicity, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
You
I
could
mean,
say it's all woo woo, but my experience has shown me that the more present I am to life, wow, the interconnectedness of it all, like it just, it's beautiful. It's
yeah, man.
beautiful.
I mean, it it started just like blasting my ego apart from that moment on. Like I was just like, "Oh, what is happening?"
Wow.
And a few years later, I had to finish physical therapy assistant school at Penn State, but my goal, I was like laser focused. I'm going to San Diego. I know
Mm,
there's something there calling me, and it's not just one thing. I just feel that pull. I've never visited, but I know I need to go there.
mm,
And when I got to San Diego, I started looking for Kundalini Yoga, and I found this studio in La Jolla. And the first class I went to was with Chelsea, and I was like, I'm looking for my teachers. Like, can you be of any assistance? And she's like, I got you. And
Ah,
and I was like, all right, cool. So she's like, go to this studio. It's called Cosmic Flow in San Diego, and check it out. There's Just see if the teachers resonate with you. And
mm,
I show up a few days later at this class, and when I walk up to the door, it's like, glass you could see in, little studio, and it's in a different location now. But
mm.
I walk up, and there's this man, beard, white beard, down to his belly button, and he looks like Gandalf, and he's got Gandalf's energy, and I'm like, I got like chills, and I'm getting chills right now. I'm like, that's my teacher. That's my
Yeah.
teacher right there. And I start talking to him, and I'm like, I think you're my teacher. And that was Guru Mantra. And then I met his partner, Merbani, and together they taught us for those 9 months. And it's been really cool, man. My journey with Kundalini has brought me to different festivals where I taught at bigger groups. And then sometimes it was teaching online, sometimes it's been teaching one on one, sometimes it's small groups, sometimes I teach in men's containers. but it's been really profound for me. One thing that I tried and succeeded in was doing 1,000 day sadhana, which sadhana is a morning practice. And in Kundalini Yoga, that is like kind of like a big initiation, would you say, right? Like 1,000 days of doing something, what of doing a kriya in particular was just like just really showed me what dedication can look like, you know? It just it was really interesting because I did it with 104 fever. I did it with a broken hand. I did it when I was traveling. I did it in the jungle of Costa Rica and Mexico, all over, you know? And it was just that was interesting to just have that life experience of 1,000 day Kriya. And the other few people that I've met that have done it, they their energy is felt. Like there was one woman that came into our training that was also a helper, uh, just like yourself. Uh, she walked in, and I was like, "What is she doing? Like, what is she doing differently than the other people?" And I found out she had done 1,000 day Kriya, and I was like, "Okay, I that's on the bucket list. I got to do that." So there's levels to this to these teachings. There's levels to how far you want to go with it. I know even after the 9 month training, there are level two trainings that I know you've done a couple of them, right?
All but one.
Hmm. How many are there? Six, five?
Yeah. There's five level two and there's level three, which is more of a mentorship.
Okay,
And yeah, just want to share real quick, you know, what stood out for me and you were sharing, there's so much, but specifically want to point out that, you know, they taught us, which was really cool. And you can go to many trainings that are special in different ways, but the differences and what's missing so much in a way is they really welcomed us into their home.
oh yeah,
And that was what the magic was all about, feeling a sense of common unity, really experience, and this is the Sangit, which is the whole vibe of the path, coming together. I remember we shared this post. I saw you repost this. Like, you're not addicted to the internet, you're longing for community.
hmm
And there's something different between like going to a yoga studio and then plugging into that home, living it. And that was a special thing, man. Um, that I just wanted to call that out. And,
for sure.
you know, a big respects to your 1,000 day um, sadhana, um, profound, man. And again, a reason that I love this practice and it's different than Kundalini Yoga. In Kundalini Yoga, you won't find it on the surface, the main line, but there's some OG yogis to this day that I know are 80 years old that shine as bright as any of I met. Guru Mantra is coming up on 20 years of doing the same sadhana that his teacher gave him. And the intricacies of that sadhana and what he shared about me, what it really is about, is no joke. I mean, these guys aren't just doing a practice to become flexible. This
Oh
is like
yeah.
full on like soul reclamation work. Then like over 20 years, he's been waking up at 4 a.m. as best as he can and holding high plank, reciting the Japji. I mean,
I mean, it's
this is
impressive,
epic
man.
that,
It's so impressive.
yeah, it is. We could say impressive, but also what is really there. And, obviously Yogi Bhajan took a huge fall recently, and there's things to recognize that need to be held accountable. But how do we hold accountable? Do we just like give the middle finger and say you suck? Or do we look at how we can participate in a different way. And after my own debates and contemplations, there's a lot of things said that people are just doing this sadhana because there is a code, there's a level of mental abuse and trauma, manipulation, so to say, that's occurring. I said, sure. But those who are doing their sadhana, not from the heart, and we're in some place of that, they're no longer continuing. And there is a level of devotion that was passed on through this lineage that is still alive, that's really real. Like Yogi Bhajan didn't make you do those 1,000 days. It was something deeper.
No.
And so you get it where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's why I still love and practice and share today as purely as I can.
yeah,
I think we're lagging a little bit.
we're lagging a little bit.
Oh, there we go. It's okay.
Okay. Okay, yeah, it sounds great on my end. So
Okay, good.
the the thing that I want to share is that these teachings are ancient. And just to just to give a little background for people that aren't familiar or this is their first time hearing about Kundalini yoga, uh, it was a yoga that was brought kind of last out of all the yogas to America. It was in the late 60s, so 1969 and 1970, Yogi Bhajan. Am I correct on that date?
I believe the early to mid 60s, but it just started coming out in the late 60s.
Yeah,
And,
so
the first teacher training didn't get it established until 35 years later into his. So it's still just kind of, and if you'd ask me, it's still just being understood.
yeah, and it seems like Yogi Bhajan, I mean, I from what I've learned, right, from what we were taught, and from what I've the research I've done on him, uh, he basically first brought this different type of yoga, and then he was like, "No, these people are on drugs. They're like deeply in need of something more." And so he opened up Kundalini Yoga and like first out of anybody else. It was a very protected lineage in India, and he broke all the rules to freely open and teach it to Americans.
Mm.
And what was profound about it is that there is so much that has been thousands of years of practices that many, many, many generations of yogis have been practicing to refine and to find the kriyas or the exercises that were going to be the most impactful for people to gain these levels of awareness, to expand their consciousness, to tap into these deeper layers of self. And I believe that in America, this lineage, for me so far, has been exactly that. It's been opening all those things. And I never knew Yogi Bhajan. He died when I was a senior in high school, but his teachings passed on through my teachers. And so I have no direct connection to this man, right? I know that there were books written about him over the last few years of how he had been doing some really bad things, and uh, what was different for me is number one, I didn't know about any of that. Number two, I didn't know him personally, and number three, my teachers, Merbani and Guru Mantra, and then many other teachers that I've learned from since then, uh, they took the purity of the teachings. They took
Mm.
the essence and they shared it. And that's what I strive to teach is the essence of the teachings the purity that I first experienced on that day in Scranton, Pennsylvania. You know, like my goal is to give people, if I just give one person a similar experience as to what I've done throughout my whole lifetime, that's my goal with that is complete, you know. And the beauty of it is that it not only can help the self with our daily practice, right? To keep our energetic hygiene, to keep ourselves grounded, centered, aligned. Not only that, but it can it can help in such a profound way for this mass awakening that's happening on the earth.
I Yes, yes, brother, and you do teach beautifully, and
As
I
do
am.
you, man. Thank you.
Thank you, and I am. I'm contemplating here, and I feel the inspiration in me to want to offer some substance, and that it may be of the greatest service to you, to this podcast, and anybody that listens it. Because I personally, as I've mentioned, and if anybody's listened thus far, they can tell I'm a little bit, passionate about this.
Hmm.
And I am. And so I want to share this in all transparency as I first kind of made the first statement of what's unique about it is because it all could be a lie or untrue. What I mean by that is, first, I want to preference that yoga itself is quite auspicious by nature. And it wasn't until, as we know it, the teachings in the Patanjali Sutras, inspired by the Bhagavad Gita, these ancient texts, before that, there's not really anything. And actually, way more people practice yoga in America than India. The roots of yoga itself are not very concrete. Ashtanga yoga and the Swami that practice, that is Swami, I don't want to mispronounce his name, it's not who my name is, but Swami Chitananda, epic yogi of posture. But even when you go to him, it's like, where did he learn from? It's very auspicious. Anyone that has been of some level of caliber of a scholar or researcher, this is what I've read, that has at least enough intelligence to know to try to study the roots, the origins of Kundalini Yoga is going to be one big headache. Everyone has a different tale. Like to this day, Babaji, the Maha Avatar in the Himalayas. There's just so much, bro, into this world. I feel him. I feel purity, but there's potential also on some level. He's like a fallen angel. There's a lot of really unique things happening in the field because Yogi Bhajan has been investigated now. And I chose, if I'm going to teach this stuff, is that when it happened, it all went down, I stepped back. After some time, I needed to figure out. And I knew I was better through the practice, but if I'm ever going to practice this, I need to know. It almost killed me. I watched every podcast. I read every book from, the white bird in a golden cage, trapped in a golden cage from this woman who wrote Peace Lagoon, one of the first sacred books that transcribed the prayers of the Sikhs. It's so, man, who's right and wrong? The play of light and dark. What was really going on? Because people say when they look at Yogi Bhajan's story and they investigate his lineage, some say, and PhDs say that it's all made up from him, and it was from an agenda of manipulation and control. When you go to his history in India and who he studied with, and then if you look at what he brought and he taught here, there's a lot of similarities that could lead one to think that he actually grabbed and pulled from many different lineages and he used what he thought was best.
Hmm.
And he claimed to be, as you mentioned briefly, a master of Hatha Yoga and also Kundalini Yoga. And that why he didn't come and teach Hatha yoga like the other teachers is because he saw it wasn't working. And
Mm-hmm.
so he came and he said, we need Kundalini yoga. And he said he was breaking all the rules of all the lineage that it's a Raj yoga of the royals. And it was only passed down through secrecy, through lineage of mouth to mouth, or mouth to ear, I should say, heart
Mm-hmm.
to heart, student to teacher, that there's no writings between a student to teacher in a real relation, in a real ancient way of setting in how the transmission was. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why there's this potential you can't ever really grasp where does it really come from? Who could actually really say? And so Yogi Bhajan tells this story about going up to the mountains at the age of 7 because his grandfather was a part of a particular yogi, with a part of a particular lineage of yogi warrior saints, the Sikh yogis.
Mm-hmm.
But even to this day, very few Sikhs acknowledge this lineage. And many Sikhs now view Yogi Bhajan also as a manipulator, a monster, crazy dude. And he sees all us white people as just capitalist, um, American people doing yoga thing, this weird thing. It has hurt my heart, brother. I'm sharing this to bring it up because I obviously have chosen otherwise, but there's a lot of finger pointing. And what I want to say is that when people have gone back to research what Yogi Bhajan said his original teacher, his name was Sant Hazara Baba Singh. And there's no one can really trace this man, has found his history. Hari Jivan has a picture of him next to Yogi Bhajan on his altars. Yogi Amandeep traces this lineage back in the yogi trees of the Sikh warriors. There's a guy, Fateh Singh, who's on the Netflix documentary who gets made like a fool, but he's written a whole book of what's called the Guru Sikh manuscripts of referencing all of these texts, all of the lines in the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib, which is the sacred book of the Sikhs that actually speaks of them doing yoga and actually potentially was a part of the colonialization when Britain came, that it got lost. And so Yogi Bhajan tells the story of life or death scenarios since he was 7 to 16, going through training, receiving these kriyas day and night, barely sleeping. We also tell a story about another who is known to be a saint. He just recently passed, I think, Sant Bai Sahib, who's I tuned into him. He's pretty epic and legit. But they had a quarrel and a breakup. You know, Guru Guru Wai, Guru Ramdas Guru, and the story of how Guru Ramdas appeared to Yogi Bhajan the first time they went to India. People have investigated that. Some say Yogi Bhajan did this whole money laundering thing and actually stole the money. And the mantras just made up. Yogi Bhajan's story is that it was a gift from Guru Ramdas that appeared in front of him to protect him because Sant Bhai Sahib, again, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his name, essentially wanted to take the students in away for himself. And Yogi Bhajan saw things happening in his field. There's letters on this too to track it. I'm sharing all this because I want to bring it all up in transparency because what has been taught to us potentially isn't accurate. And I think it's our responsibility as the next generation to really operate in the highest level of integrity. And I've seen already, and there's going to be so many more. There's an HBO documentary now that will walk from this path. There's nothing cool about teaching Kundalini Yoga anymore. At one time, it was the coolest thing ever. It was like so far out and like rare. It's like to find a good teacher, it's like almost impossible. But if you do, you know the experience. And how could it be that you have that experience so profoundly in one class? Is this something so twisted up, or is there something real within this practice? Was Yogi Bhajan perfect? Absolutely not. The dude had his things. But if you actually listen to his lectures, he was like, you guys, please stop. I'm the worst. Don't follow me. You must see. I'm just here to share the teaching. And
Well,
what he went through was crazy. And I think we can learn so much. I just want to complete that. And I think there's an opportunity for us now as Kundalini yoga teachers to not just go by the script and as taught by Yogi Bhajan, because I do see where the polarizing language and the manipulation occurred, and we can recognize that no longer can happen in our generation. And there can be a new, authentic way of expressing the teachings where there isn't a cage, and we can really be free to tune into the library that I believe he was tuning into. And I will just say this, by God's grace, I've experienced and I've taught thousands of classes, thousands, as much as anybody I know. And there's a library that begins to open when you truly come forth in service. And when it's needed, something happens. And I just want to say that I've experienced a reality of this. Call me crazy, that's fine. But I've experienced others, miracles happening. The amount of letters and messages I've received gives me all the more inspiration to keep showing up. And lastly, as you're probably going to say, and is this any of this even necessary to bring up? Because most people don't even care. They just want an experience of well-being. And so thank you for listening. And I hope that this might just echo into the field, because I've been very disappointed actually with the way a lot of other teachers have shown up. Even Guru Mantra. I'm like, dang, bro. But he is as he is. And I am as I am. And we each have our piece to the puzzle. And I'll leave it there.
Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, a lot of that, what you shared, to me, just shows the devotion and dedication that you've shown to this practice, to this lineage, to this way of teaching and to showing up. And Yogi Bhajan would say, I want my teachers to be 10 times better than me. My students, my students to be 10 times better than me. And one thing I want to emphasize is you watch one of his videos, they're all over, right? YouTube and you can find them everywhere. Pretty much every one of his classes that I've seen, he is very intense. The way he talks, the way he runs the class, he's very, very intense. He's very like, do this, do this, do this. Don't put your arms down. You know, it's very intense. And I don't know if I lived in that era, if I would have gone to his classes because it was that intense to witness. And at the same time, one thing I want to emphasize is that that was in a Piscean age. If we look at the astrology of of the years in like he was living and teaching in the Piscean era. Then we've been transitioning and transferred into the Aquarian age, and so we teach very differently in our generation than in his generation. His Piscean way was very like, get in, get it done, just push through, keep going, don't stop. For the Aquarian age, it's much more gentle. We tune into our students, at least the way I teach, right? And I know you do as well. It's like we tune into our students, we emphasize to them that, at least I do, I emphasize to my students that this is all about experiencing your limitlessness, the ability to keep your arms up for 3 minutes, you know, the ability to breathe through your nose fast, 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 like a breath of fire for 7 to 31 minutes, whatever it is that we're doing that can challenge the body and can challenge the mind, the psyche, right? It's seeing what we can push through and to get to the other side of that and be like, wow, okay, I what is the limit? Is there a limit? You know, like those kind of questions that arise. Like what I tell my students a lot of times is like, there is a man in India that has had his arm up like this, straight up in the air for 20 years.
40.
40 years. Okay, even more. Yeah. And what happened was he just said, I'm going to keep my arm up. Eventually it atrophied and now he can't even bring it down. But
Shiva.
yeah, like who's to say that we can't, what our limitations are in this body, right? And um, one thing on a side note that I really want to emphasize that's coming through right now is that what this is all about is raising that energy from the spine up through the seven energetic centers, the chakras of the body, and out through the top crown chakra. When that happens, there is an ability for this reality to show itself to you fully. And it's happened where it doesn't always have to be with Kundalini Yoga. Kundalini Yoga is named that because there's an opportunity and a possibility that that might happen for some people. For me, it happened while I was driving, like I mentioned.
And for real, actually, the what is actually most important is not at all practicing Kundalini yoga to awaken your Kundalini. The essence of the practice, that's where it's like, it's actually to, in a organized and balanced and healthy way, slowly release this consciousness in a way that the body is able to receive it and your psyche is able to handle it and hold it and progressively grow. And sometimes Kundalini awakening happening, as I would say, by grace. And the practice itself is not to shoot out. It
Right.
is to actually to ground the light and to house the soul in a stable and supportive way that you can actually be in the world. Because a lot of people that are leaving their body, and so, especially what you mentioned is so profound and so important to know what he was working with who we are today. Like you, Peter, are so sensitive and you have galactic experiences with like two breaths. He was working with like concrete in different times, preparing, and we have to recognize that. And you're
Oh
right.
yeah.
Guru Mandra's told me a story in the first solstice, bro. He said they were all sitting on the ground. Yogi Bhajan came out onto the stage. He was like, okay, speaking of Sakri, he's like, okay, sit on your heels, put your arms up like this, da da da, and sat, nam, and you go and you hold it. And he said they didn't come back for 62 minutes. And he said, okay, inhale, hold, exhale. And he said, okay, rest. And he left the stage. And then 30 minutes later, he came back and they took him into Sakri again, 62 minutes. Inhale, hold, okay, rest. Left the stage. They did it 3 times, bro,
Wow.
62 minutes each time. But, you could look at, in these times, and they'll be arrested.
Wait, say that again.
Then
And these times what?
he'd be arrested.
Oh
People would
yeah.
be going to post on social media. This guy's, anyways, you get where I'm going. He pushed people and they had an experience and it opened something up. And what I want to say is different. What I recognize in our time of teaching is this a recognizing, yes, we're rising the light up, but it's first actually bringing the light in,
Mhm.
the light of the source of the soul. And I think I was missing too heavily leaning on just tune in, not in your seat, like anchoring into source. And then from that place,
Well, I
you
would even
tune
say
in.
that it's happening simultaneously because as you're raising the energy, you're clearing out all that darkness, all the trauma, all the things that at least over time, right? We're able to address these things. Spirit allows us and gives us these opportunities to clear out this baggage, if you will, from the past that no longer serves us, that is blocking us at times and and then as that's clearing, the light is coming in through the top, and all of it is coming in from the top and from the bottom. So we're grounding our energy, but we're also rising the energy. So I mean, the channel has to be open for these next stages, is from what I experience when the body is the key as well. when the spine is literally stacked, there's no vertebrae out of alignment. When the spine and the neck are straight and in alignment, there's this opportunity for this energy to rise, and it can rise as slowly as it needs to, or it's different for every person, right? But then I've noticed that with different other ways, like plant medicines and things like that, the Kundalini rising and the spine aligning is the key to reach and go through the veil into these other galactic activations and experiences. And you don't need anything else outside of yourself, right? This practice allows us to have that without any of these other things. But when those two things are combined, it like allows for that veil to just to shoot through and then access the Akashic records, those really profound, infinite teachings that are available for us to take from that space and bring it into this reality. And it is possible to go through that veil in other ways, but from my experience, that is how it progressed for me.
Beautiful, brother. I'm so with you on that. And just keep chiming in. The perspective I'm wanting to offer, like, that is absolutely true. And you are saying it. Words are sometimes just, a play, but it's really about creating the inner alchemy so that the veil is lifted from within to, so that it's the inner secretions that are occurring to what seems like out, but it's to illuminate from within. And I know you're speaking that and teach that. You did beautifully in just really speaking about the engineering, the dynamics. And a point I want to add that I feel was one of the greatest gifts that came through all of this. Obviously, anyone that's listening, they can hear that I've done a lot of research and time spent here. And there's been a lot of heartbreak, tons of tears, so much. And it might sound dramatic, but it was real for me, bro. And this thing about the spiritual path, as I mentioned, is really about spiritual union. And my experience on this path has led me to experience many things, some not what is said. And learning the true way of prayer and how to align the energetics can be such a profound way, essentially to connect to source, to your soul in a list of ways. For instance, as I began my journey, I was going to gospel church, a beautiful mentor, my brother Deacon Washington, and a deep passion for the Christ, which I always will, and relate to that in a profound way, intimate way. I'll leave it there. One time I came up to him and told him I was doing yoga, and he looked at me and was like, "Hey, bro, like, you should be careful with that, because you can open yourself up to other spirits." And in the path of Christianity and Jesus, it's only in Jesus's name, only, like many other religions. And at that time, I was young, brother, so I'm like, peace out.
Peace out, dude.
Be out breathing and moving. Y'all need to meditate.
Yeah.
Y'all need to meditate. I was thinking that was really an indoctrination in a way, not listening, receiving. And there's truth to both. I would say, from my experience now, over 10 years later, there's truth to what he said. And what I wanted to really make clear is, in the tune-in, that having direct gnosis, clarity of that which you are connecting to in this space of awareness of that which you're practicing in the level of prayer and intentionality that you're bringing through in Om Namo Guru Dev Namo covers that through an inner alchemy, which is important. But it's like I could do a yoga practice perfectly, but the perfection of a yoga practice, of a kriya, to perfect the kriya, is not about doing the posture in its perfect expression. It's about the unbroken conscious awareness that you hold throughout the practice. And I think there's a potential that many are allowing their energy, their soul, and actually it's a way to leave them rather than bringing it in, especially in these practices of Kundalini Yoga that can be so intense in ways that can shoot people out. And so I think just having that recognition of clarity of that relation to your soul, and it is about connecting to the Akashics, but it's mostly about understanding the Akashic self, the wisdom of you that your soul holds, the different expressions that potentially this healing journey is all about bringing all that we are into wholeness here and now. So it's like it's both. It's tapping into those records to remember to be present with what is,
Yeah,
freeing
remembering that we're
space.
human, remembering that we're human and we're having a human experience, and we can bring these teachings from thousands of years ago back into this reality and allow that to integrate into this human experience as well.
Mm. I think that is truly the work to be done. And that is actually the responsibility of a spiritual teacher. And that's what Yogi Bhajan kind of held down. Let the practice work for itself and touch your limitlessness, as you said, touch your own infinity. But then the key, the mastery, while we're here on this earth and body, is like, okay, yes, master it in all of the density here. And to bridge and understand the dynamics, the engineerings of spirit, and how it manifests into physical, and to work with that nature that way. And that's what a teacher is helping us do through their mastery and their process of unification. They can then give us points along the way, not to teach us what we already are, but to bring us home to that awareness and to live it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Truthful living, truthful living.
Hmm.
And that's why, bro, Satanam, Satanam, Vaheguru, Satanama, Vaheguru. You don't need much more than that.
Well, can you share what those mean for people that are new to the pot to Kundalini? The translation, I would say.
Okay. So there's a few different translations. I just want to say what resonates with me. And we think about back to the Sikhs in this lineage for a moment. And this yoga uses posture, but first and foremost, posture of mind. The essence of this practice is understanding potentially that the mind is really everything, that the body itself, manifestation of the mind, on, and that to really know the way of the one is to conquer the mind. This, this said in Guru Nanak's teachings, conquer the mind, you conquer the world. And so you think about Satanama as giving the mind the ability to touch your infinity and also to touch your humanness, to touch life and experience it, and equally to touch and embrace and face death. But knowing that there's no beginning, no end, this cycling, the reincarnation, the continuation, understanding beyond time and space. We could also relate to Satanama to all that makes you you, the hemispheres of the brain, representing both hemispheres.
The yin and the yang.
Yes, or that you could just Satanama could be also an embodiment of all of the elements that make you up. Um, and so that is mastering of the Satanama here, and then Vaheguru. Vaheguru is your North Star. It's your connection to the cosmos, to that higher wisdom, to source.
Hmm.
And so it's like Satanama Vaheguru.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean that was really, really beautifully explained, man. I the way just the simplest way that I was taught was Sat Nam means truth is my identity, and then Wahe Guru is like praise to the Almighty, praise to the Great Spirit, right? Like Waheguru,
Mm,
like excitement, that lightning that you're talking about on your wrist, right? Like that excitement for life, that excitement for God and Spirit to come and guide us and be with us and show us the way, you know?
mm. Yeah, yeah, bro. Yeah. I mean, I think there's such gifts, and that's where these times, like, thinking, reflecting on life, reflecting on what is, not idealistically, but we wouldn't be here today without Yogi Bhajan. We wouldn't be sitting here. And is it incompassionate of me or not? Is it selfish? But for me personally, to know the mantra Sat Nam or Vaheguru is worth like all of this, all of the suffering and all of the ugliness. Um, and in all of the religions, there's a name to God, from Hare Krishna to Jesus to Allah and on and on and on. And for me to this day, which is the newest primary religion on the earth, the Sikhs, Guru Nanak, and I believe he so had a mission. I'm not saying he's the one, right? It's understanding this potential bigger play of the divine, and he simplified Sanskrit, which he saw all of these scholars that spent their life renouncing the world, studying the Vedic texts, and all of these profound intricacies of the universe, and knowing this language. But what good does it do in the end? And potentially the story of him being underwater for 3 days, and it said his consciousness, this what we're speaking of, the Akashics, came back to his soul, and all of the aspects of his soul that he had been working on, united in this lifetime, arose. And all that thought he was dead and past, except his one follower at that time, who was a musician. And he got out, and it said he started walking through the village, chanting Ekonkar, Ekonkar, just like, oh, one creator of all creation, Ekonkar, Satanam, Satanam. Truth is, yes, my identity, but it's Nam, it's the essence, it's the intrinsic nature. The Nam, Satanam, Vaheguru, that I would be a fool to try to name or describe the one. I can know Krishna, I can know Vishnu, I can know Lakshmi, I can know all of the planets and galaxies, but if I trace them all, it only brings me back to the one, anyways. So rather than trying to know and getting caught up in that, why don't I just bring my mind close to the Maker? Said, man, I try to know so much, the mind, to try to know God's face. Might only be worried of being close to God's feet, because to try to understand God going from there is that would that is the spiritual, it's be in the rapture of the ecstasy, the Vaheguru, an ecstasy beyond description with the supreme being, and that its nature is truth, and you can't fake it. There's no slicing or dicing it. It's eternal, deathless, formless, beyond caste, beyond any color, self-illuminated,
Absolutely, brother.
fearless and deathless. I'm understanding these things. I just want to say one more thing. This fearless and deathless, many speak of God as the dark and the light, working with the good or bad. I think it's a misunderstanding in a way. God is only light. God is only good.
Only love.
Only love. We work with the darkness, but this is not God. Anyways.
Oh man, brother, that was that was amazing to see your passion and the way you described that. I love it, man. This is your passion for this and your passion for life inspires me every day, man. I'm so grateful that we did this today. I think with this, we'll wrap it up. I love you so much, brother. And I'm sure down the line we'll do a part two because it feels like we just started to skim the surface. So I love you, brother. Thank you for coming on. Sending you lots of love and blessings. Until next time.
Big respects, brother. Thank you so much for the time, the space to express myself. I feel very satiated.
Love you, man. Thank you again. Until next
All
time.
right.